Hey guys, Cameron Walker here, your favorite Huntsville realtor with Amanda Howard, Sotheby's International Realty. Today we're going to talk about the top 7 reasons why you may not want to move to Huntsville. Despite being ranked the #1 place to live in the United States by U.S. News & World Report, Huntsville's not right for everybody. There are some drawbacks to living here. So today we're going to talk about those because my channel is dedicated to giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly about moving to Huntsville. So if that's the kind of content that you're looking for, hit that subscribe button. And if you find this video helpful or informative, hit the like button as well so other people can find it too. Let's dive right into the first thing. #1 complaint I get from people, whether they've lived here their entire life or they moved here yesterday, is about the heat and humidity during the summer. We have long, hot, humid summers with daytime temperatures routinely hitting mid to upper 90s and sometimes over 100. We also have the humidity to match. It's so hot and humid here, we actually don't just go by the temperature, we look at the heat index, which is a measure that combines the heat and humidity to give you a feels-like temperature. And routinely during the summer, we have a month or a week or two where that temperature is between 105 and 115 degrees. This is going to impact you a lot if you're outside. Think about if you work outdoors, if you enjoy doing lawn and garden maintenance, or if you're somebody that likes to go fishing, hiking, or maybe you like to play golf. You really want to work around those temperatures. Just like if you live somewhere where it snows a lot or rains a lot, you have to work around those conditions. It's the same thing with the heat and humidity. You want to get out early in the day or late in the evening. So take those early morning tee times or get on the lake before the sun's up, because you're going to see a lot more trailers at that boat ramp at 6 a.m. than you're going to see at noon. Second way that the heat and humidity are going to impact you is in your energy cost. You're going to see a spike in energy cost over the summer. Despite us having some of the lowest utilities on average across the U.S., that summertime is really going to drive the bill up. Doesn't matter if you keep your thermostat on 77 or 67, that AC is going to be working overtime. Now this is offset by the rest of the year where we have really mild temperatures. Deep in the winter, we're rarely below freezing during daylight hours. You may wake up with a little bit of frost on the ground. The midday temperatures are going to be in the 40s. And then during the spring and the summer, you may not run your AC at all. Nighttime temperatures are going to drop down to upper 50s, low 60s, and daytime highs are going to be between 75 and 80. So it's really going to save you on your energy costs there, and you're going to be able to get out and enjoy all those outdoor activities we talked about earlier. To go along with the change in temperatures during the seasons, we also have a change in weather. During the summer, we don't get a lot of rain, and during the winter, we hardly get any snow. But in the spring and the fall, we do have severe weather and thunderstorms. These are long-track thunderstorms that start in Louisiana, Mississippi, make their way towards us, and with them, they can bring a lot of rain, a lot of lightning, and a lot of wind. That rain can cause severe flooding. So if you're looking at homes here, you definitely want to check out the flood map or have your agent do so to make sure you're not in a flood zone. The other thing they're going to bring with them is tornadoes, unfortunately, and we do get hit by tornadoes every year. The good news is most tornadoes follow the same tracks year over year, and those are in unpopulated parts of the state. But every now and then one will hit a populated area, and the damages can be catastrophic. Best thing I can tell you here is they're infrequent, and there are ways to mitigate the risk. You can get an in-ground storm shelter, buy a home with a subterranean basement, or you can get an above-ground shelter that's attached to your foundation. If for some reason you can't get a shelter in your home, you can always go to a public shelter. You just need to know where those are and get there in advance of any storms. You definitely don't want to be on the road if there's flooding or tornadoes in the area. It'd be safer to stay home. I also get a lot of questions about homeowners insurance and who covers tornado damage. It's not like flood or hurricane insurance where you need a separate coverage. Your typical homeowners insurance is going to cover any kind of tornado damage to your property. All right, sticking with the change in seasons, let's talk about allergy season. This is really going to be the third reason not to move here. If you're like me and you suffer from seasonal allergies, this may not be the right place for you to live. We have a very temperate climate, a lot of things bloom here, and really from March through May, you're going to see a fine yellow dust on just about everything outdoors, and that's going to be your pollen. I start taking my medicine in about mid-February. That way I've got it built up in my system once March hits and that pollen starts hitting the air. Now, I'm fortunate I don't suffer from fall allergies, but I have friends and family that do, and that can be almost as insufferable as the spring. So if allergies are a big concern for you, I probably wouldn't move to Huntsville. All right, sticking with the outdoor theme, #4 is going to be pest. I get a lot of people that have questions about this, and I kind of break it into 2 categories. There's kind of nuisance pests, and then there are actually ones that can damage your home. Nuisance pests are going to be things like ants, mosquitoes, and wasps. We have a lot of red wasps in the area. They're very territorial in late spring and early summer. And if you see them around your house, there's going to be a nest not far away. Check underneath the eaves of your home, around the gutters, or any outlying buildings, and you're going to find the nest. Just hit it some of that spray you can spray from 25 feet away. Give it a couple of minutes, knock it down with a broom so nobody goes back to rebuild there. For mosquitoes, they love the shade. They're not going to bother you if you're out in the sun, but they are going to be your best friend if you're on a patio or a deck. So my recommendation there is buy one with a screened-in porch or patio, or screen it in yourself after you buy. And if you're going to be out doing things like hiking or in any kind of shade, wear some bug repellent. It works pretty well against our local species of mosquitoes. With ants, if they're out in your yard and you're concerned about them because you have animals or kids, there's a couple of different things you can do. There's chemical treatments and poison. But if you want a natural remedy, something a lot of us do here in the South is we'll kick off the top of the anthill. We'll dump a good amount of cinnamon on it. You might have to do it 2 or 3 times, but for some reason, ants hate cinnamon and they'll move their colony far away if you do that. The bigger concern is actually with wood-destroying insects. You may never have heard of carpenter bees, but they're like small black bumblebees, and they'll drill a hole through any kind of wood you have outside on the exterior of your home or any outlying buildings that you may have. So if you start noticing like nickel-sized holes in this wood, it's probably carpenter bees. They're not real dangerous to people. They usually don't bug you, but they can really harm that wood. The easiest way to get rid of them is a carpenter bee trap. It's just a block of wood with a hole drilled in it that leads to a mason jar. You'll put it out one day with no bees in it. The next day there'll be 22 of them in there. So it's an easy way to get rid of carpenter bees. The bigger threat is actually subterranean termites. We have quite a bit of termites in North Alabama. I've done some other videos on this as well, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here. So termites can hit any property here. The best advice I can give you is to buy a home with a transferable termite bond, or do a termite inspection during your escrow period, and then get a bond after you take ownership of the home. A termite bond is just where a termite or some other pest company is treating your property, inspecting it for termites, and if there's ever any damage, that bond will cover the repair, because homeowners insurance here does not cover termite damage. All right, that's enough about the outdoor stuff. Let's talk about the city itself. The 5th reason you may not want to move to Huntsville is actually urban sprawl. Over the years, we've had a lot of growth in Huntsville, and for some reason, Huntsville's chosen to grow out rather than up. And that's kind of coming back to bite us a little bit now. Of course, people are living in outlying suburbs, commuting into the city, which is creating more traffic, but it also means we don't have a lot of population density. That can result in fewer stores, restaurants, department stores coming to the area and leave us a little bit less opportunity. Also means all of those things are clustered right around Huntsville. Probably the biggest outlying area that has a big event space is Toyota Field, where the Trash Pandas play ball. Everything else is going to be closer into Huntsville, and if you live out in the suburbs, you're going to have to drive in to take advantage of those opportunities. This also means that much of Huntsville is not walkable. Aside from city centers like downtown and maybe 5 Points or the medical district, some areas in northwest and southeast Huntsville, much of Huntsville and the surrounding area is just not walkable. When I say walkable, I mean being able to go from your home to work, to the grocery store, to dining and shopping options and back home, right? You're just not going to see that many areas here that are like that. Huntsville's working on remedying that, but it's going to be a long time coming. And in conjunction with that, we also don't have a lot of bike lanes around Huntsville. You have some in the city center, and you have some right around the arsenal. But once you get out to the suburbs, it's not very bikeable. There's no bike lanes, and there's a lot of winding, curving roads, blind turns, and a lot of hills where drivers can't see you once they crest that hill. It can be pretty dangerous if you're out riding a bike out in these suburban streets. All right, this leads us into number 6, growing pains. Huntsville feels like it's bursting at the seams sometimes with so many people moving here, and this is manifest in a lot of different ways. First has been competition for housing. It really drove up prices for homes as well as rents, which pushed a lot of people to the further out suburbs. That way they could get a little more bang for their buck, either in the size of the home, the age of the home, or how big a lot they could get. Now, while we're still well below the national averages, it's been a steep increase for us here locally. So that's adding a little bit to the traffic problems. It also means some of those schools weren't able to accommodate those kind of kids have now led to a population issue, right? So there's been a lot of redistricting and rezoning over the last couple of years, and it tends to happen every year. Now, new schools have been built too, so that helps alleviate some of the concerns, but as more and more people move here, we're going to continue to rebalance and build new schools. Also means if your kids ride the school bus, right, they may either have a really long ride of 30 or 45 minutes, or that bus driver may actually do 2 routes, and your kids may get to school 30 to 45 minutes before their first class. Other areas we're going to feel this pain is things like signing up for doctors and dentists and pharmacies. If you are on some kind of long-term management plan where you take a lot of medication, you definitely want to get out in advance, get set up with a new doctor in the area that can continue that prescription. And you probably want to talk to your doctor before you move so you can get an extended prescription filled before you move here. All right, the last thing I'm going to touch on here is a drawback that may prevent you from moving to Huntsville is the fact that we're one of the last buyer beware states in Alabama. I've done a video on this before, and I'll link it above where it goes into more detail. Right here, I'm just going to give you the highlights. Buyer beware really means that we don't have a lot in the way of seller disclosure laws, and the onus is on the buyer to discover any defects about the property really before they purchase it, especially if you're buying a home in an as-is condition, or maybe even sight unseen. That was really a hot topic over the last couple of years, and a lot of people were doing that, and they're now paying for that because there's some unknown expenses there with repairs that they didn't have the opportunity to inspect or chose not to. My advice here would be, as the market cools and becomes more balanced, think there's opportunities to get an inspection prior to writing an offer or making that offer contingent upon the buyer being satisfied with that inspection. If you want to know more, go back, click that video I linked to just a moment ago. All right, thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you found this informative, and I'll talk to you guys next week.